Good morning to everyone and my respectful pranams from India. These are a bit extraordinary circumstances in which this message aims to reach you from the lap of Maganga, foothills of mighty Himalayas, and from Shantikunj, which is the headquarter of 150 million members of the Gayatri Parivar in Haridwar, Himalayas. These are historic and slightly precarious times because we are right in the middle of a global pandemic and in the middle of a momentous travesty ever seen by the mankind. Unfortunately, the overall impact of this recently discovered novel coronavirus infection to humanity, despite of the worldwide shutdown, global restrictions, closures of airports, nations, and even continents, had been colossal. And when we attempt to evaluate the current times in the wake of such calamity, then the present times could easily be called as unprecedented. And there are multiple reasons to support that notion besides the current coronavirus infection. And for us to be aware of these reasons, let us critically evaluate the developments of last century. And as we do that, we will find that in the beginning of the last century, 20th century I'm talking about, the world arena was dominated by three principal ideologies or the point of views. First one was a bit radical, authoritarian, and dictatorial point of view. Second was a communist, socialist kind of model. And third was a capitalist and liberalist kind of ideology. And with the end of the Second World War, the world got divided more or less between two ideologies because the first one was gone. And the two ideologies that dominated the world at that time were the communist and the capitalist kind of model. And then came the collapse of the Soviet Union as well as the celebrated fall of the Berlin Wall. And then the prevalent economical model of the world became more or less capitalist, open market. And then in the beginning of this century, we had 9/11, unfortunate incident, and then the world also faced the crisis in 2008 in terms of the world economy collapsing and crashing. And afterwards, the ground underneath the liberal theory started to shake too. Now, suddenly, first time ever, the world was left with no dominant ideology. Nations, cultures, and societies are not known because of their peculiar standpoints anymore. And the reason I'm sharing all this historical perspective with you is to remind ourselves that in the absence of dominant ideology, because there is no single viewpoint that is dominating the entire planet at the moment, what became as the global superpower is not a country or not an ideology, but the superpower of today or this time is science and technology, and that is the field of information. And it is clear that an accelerating pace of the technological advancement is currently shaping the future of political systems, nations' ideologies, to the individual life choices. What I'm supposed to buy, what I'm not supposed to buy, what kind of life I'm supposed to live. All this is being determined, shaped, and fashioned by the scientific and technological advancement. And one who controls the data in current times controls the economy. And one who controls the economy also controls the politics. And one who controls the politics is controlling you, me, and this world. And like Heraclitus, the famous Greek philosopher, famously said that if we are not interested in politics, means nothing. It does not mean that politics is not interested in you. And reason all this is important is because a revolution is taking place around us, from creation of the blockchain networks to development of cryptocurrencies, and from the rise of artificial intelligence and consciousness to a totally automated world. But remember that this is the first time in the history of this planet that we are not part of this revolution. In this ever-changing, fast-paced world of science and technology, human beings are slowly becoming irrelevant. People are not sure anymore that their existence is going to make any difference in the speed of the planet or in the journey of this planet. Earlier, last century, when people were following a peculiar kind of ideology. They believed, rightly or wrongly, that their involvement is going to shape the future of the world. From communist to capitalist, each believed in the power of their presence. And now our presence is not required anymore to bring a revolution because everything is happening from a technological advancement. And hence, what we face now is also unique and unprecedented. The scientific development that we have done so far was necessary, and I'm not contradicting that. I'm not here to complain about technological advancement. It was necessary, it is necessary, it would always be necessary. I'm not denying that. However, how we are dealing with that advancement does not fall in the remit of science, but it falls in the remit of spirituality. Because with this shift of humanity more towards technological advancement, we are now witnessing a scene of chaos, confusion, uncertainty, disillusionment, dissatisfaction, and fear. There is a prevailing kind of feeling where people seems to be afraid that which path they are supposed to take. A fast pace of the life and community brought shine and sparkle to the lives of the people. But if we look from a philosophical point of view, we will realize that under those glittery surfaces and shining exteriors, most people seem to have a life of pain and misery and sorrow and solitude. Now we are surrounded by imaginary friends on the Facebook, but in reality, most people seem to have a hollow, broken, and empty hearts behind those fake smiles on the Facebook. The pain, the suffering, the sorrow, the stress, the tension, the strife, the struggle that is inside the human beings was not even at the battlefields of last century. Now we have made huge houses for us to live in, but we have broken down the families. We have reached to the moon, but we seem to have forgotten ourselves. We have advanced the medicine, but we have compromised our health and immunity. And worst of all, we have populated the earth, but we have annihilated the humanity. We have compromised the humanity. Compassion is gone. Greed and decline seem to rule the planet. The humanity seems to be disappearing in front of our eyes. In fact, it's already not there. It is not there because we have been dreaming a dream from which we are just waking up. The dream that if we just improve the socio-economic status of every person, everything would be miraculously okay. If you give people money, power, and position, then everyone would be happy. Truth is different. Truth is that as struggle for survival gets subsided, then the real questions of the life start to emerge. That survival for what? Then people ask the question that okay, now we can survive. Then why are we surviving? Now people have means to live, but no meaning to live for. And this world demands a change. If everything continues the way it is, then we would be leaving a damaged world and a fractured society for the next generation. Families would be broken, individuality would be gone, and humanity would be dead. Problem is that everyone knows what I'm talking about, and everyone seems to be desperate to find a solution too. But unfortunately, to seek a solution, somehow we continue to focus on the external measures only, the measures that take us only to one side, and that side is the science of external advancement, which is important, but it cannot solely bring the change unless there is a change in the global mindset or consciousness. These crises of the human conscience that allow people to live their lives with full comfort and luxury while society is collapsing, a demand for a fundamental or deep change in the global thinking and mindset. And this change cannot happen if we change from outside. This change can happen only if we change the very substance of our personality, which is called as the inner transformation, which was the idea of Pujya Gurudev to bring in the community and society, which is the transformation of the personality, and that is the central feature of any yogic pursuit. The true yoga offers that sense, that direction, that purpose, and that meaning to the life. The journey of the yoga teaches us that before we find everything else, We must find ourselves. Otherwise, scenery around us would keep changing and we will continue to remain what we are. And changing envelope does not change the content of the letter. If I change from outside but inner being remains the same, then there is no point. It would only bring much more discontent to me. The word yoga means harmony. Buddhi yukto jahati ho bhe sukrit dushkrite tasmad yoga yujusva yoga karma sukoshilam. Bhagwan Sri Krishna says in the Gita, yoga is the excellence of all actions. And then he says, yogastha kuru karmani sangam tvaktva dhananjaya siddha siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoguchyate. Samatvam yoguchyate. That yoga is the balance within and harmony outside. And yoga is nothing but like absolute harmony. I remember the famous story of a prince Strotra who heard the discourse of Lord Buddha and became a monk. The moment he became a monk, he started to do everything opposite. Everyone would walk on the normal road, he would walk in the bushes. Everyone would eat the normal food, he would not eat for days and months. His health started to go. So Lord Buddha, Bhagwan Buddha came to see him and said that Srotra, when you were a prince, you were a very good veena player. Veena is like guitar. So he said, tell me one thing. Why are you doing all this, what you are doing at the moment? He said, I want to find harmony. He said, okay, you remember veena? He said, yeah. He said, tell me one thing, that if the strings of the veena are too tight, what would happen? He said, there would be no music, Lord. It would be too, painful to hear. And he said, if it is too loose, what would happen? If strings are too loose, he said, then also there would be no music. Lord Buddha said, same is with the life, my dear. You can't tight it too much, you can't lose it too much. He said, yoga is somewhere in between, harmony is somewhere in between. It should be samyak. And that is what the yoga focuses upon. It focuses upon refinement of the human consciousness to accomplish purity of the body, clarity of the mind, divinity of the consciousness, and to accomplish that at the level of society, we need one common language at the level of collective consciousness. And yoga is that language that could unite people across the religion, beyond the boundaries, above the horizon. I remember that Puj Gurudev Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya, who was a groundbreaking scholar of modern India, and who, apart from authoring more than 3,000 books in Hindi and Sanskrit, also started a revolutionary movement called Vichar Kranti Abhiyan, a thought transformation movement, which now has close to millions of members and thousands of centers worldwide, and all running on absolutely free basis. He said that for unity and harmony to emerge at the level of society, we need three things. Swasth Sharir, a healthy body, that could be accomplished by yogasana. Swachman, a clear and pristine mind, that could be accomplished with the help of spiritual practices. And Sabhya Samaj, a refined society that could be achieved by following the path of sacredness and compassion. And I strongly believe, if we follow those kind of principles in today's world, then world would be a very different and beautiful place. And I shall end by quoting what he said on the current circumstances. He said, while the current situation looks dark and gloomy, it should not bring fear or despair to us. Rather, we should embrace it like a call of action. It is a signal that we are born at a very special time, when the entire humanity has been called to accomplish the most important and most difficult times that it has ever been called to accomplish. And this demands a new kind of collaboration between sectors and societies, nations and religions, races, and different kinds of people. All have to come together to bring a new change in the world. And I think that message is very important, especially in the context of today, when we are celebrating the International Yoga Day. And yoga means union, yoga means balance, yoga means harmony. And all these important meanings of the yoga, especially in the context of what we are going through, not only at the level of community, but also at the level of collective consciousness, become very important. I believe that if we are able to follow those important messages, then we can leave a very important note for the entire world for tomorrow. Our most heartfelt sincere, earnest wishes to everyone on this International Yoga Day, and many best wishes to those who are listening to this message at their home, and special thanks to all the speakers and all the dignitaries who had kindly contributed their messages of well being, their messages of wisdom, purity, sanctity to all the listeners through our platform on today's special occasion. Pranams to everyone and best wishes from entire gathering.